So this is going to be an instructional video on how to use the laser cutter. First of all, we'll go through inserting a file, how to set it up ready for cutting, and then separately we'll go through how to actually set up the laser cutter itself. Now the first thing you're going to do is import your design. Now these might be saved in your Google Drive where the kids have saved them. Once that is downloaded from Google Drive, you're going to have to go on File and then Import. Now it will be in the download section. If the downloads don't appear when you first come on it just appears as a desktop. Click on Student, Downloads, and all the downloads should be there. Let me see. So I have got one which is a tree design, doesn't really matter what it is. Make sure obviously it's a DXF file. If it's not a DXF file, it will not open. And I've imported that into there. Now at this point I can start to move my shapes around to make it fit the material better. Also there's less material waste on my workspace. I'm going to just reposition these real quickly. I'm going to delete this one out of the way just so it saves us some time. Okay, so the next thing is going to be what speed and what power we need to have the laser cutter set up. Now I'm recording this from a screen, so I apologise if it's a bit blurry, but we're going to be mainly working on this side of the screen over here, which has got our three values that we need to concentrate on. There is a laser cutted sheet which explains to you what speeds and what power settings you need for laser ply and for acrylic, depending on what you are cutting. So for this example, I'm going to be using plywood, but please refer back to this if you are unsure on what you need to do. The plywood setting for a cut is going to be 75% power. So the first figure I'm going to change is that one at the top, change that to 75. Top one needs to be about 5 difference, so that's going to be 80. Then the speed says 5. And they're going to match the settings, as I said there, the cutting settings for 3mm plywood. I'm going to make sure that's okay. Yep, 75, 80, cool, all good. Now please make sure at these ones, if you're using black, make sure it says cut and make sure it says output. If you don't select an output, it won't cut anything. So make sure that's clicked as yes. You'll need to position your material. It starts cutting from the green point here. So your material would roughly need to sit in that rectangular shape, just around the outside like that. So this is a laser cutter. Simply on off switch on the left hand side. Emergency stop is over here, just in case you need to switch it off. A good thing to look out for as well is this temperature gauge, making sure it doesn't get too hot during operation. So I'm going to switch it on. Please make sure before you switch it on, the extractor hose is out of the door like so, and as far away from the door as possible. The on switch, as I said earlier, is on this left hand side. So I'm going to switch it on. It will be quite noisy because that means the extractor's working. And open up the lid. The laser will initially reset itself, but it will come back to its home point just like that. Now I said before, we're going to be using plywood for our cutting process. So I've just got a sheet of ply here. I'm going to place it into the bed of the laser and position it in the top corner. And I'll show you closer. Top corner like so. So I know my design is going to cut out in this direction. I may need to use a ruler to measure out how big my design is to make sure this piece of plywood is appropriate for what I'm trying to do. Now the next thing I need to do is refocus the laser. Now when refocusing the laser, I am unsure what any material the person before me has used, so I need to make sure it's the right focus, otherwise it won't cut correctly. Now I'm going to push the Z button, offset, and I'm going to scroll down to the one that says autofocus and press enter. Now when I press enter, the bed moves up to the laser, focuses on what it needs to do, and then you'll see it drop down. And now that is complete and it is ready to be cut using plywood. Now the last little thing we need to do is ensure this lid is closed. Make sure the material's not sticking out the front. And then the last operation we need to do is to start putting this position there. Click start and the machine will run. Make sure a child is watching at the time, so it does have the capability to set on fire. So make sure they are watching it carefully, and then when it is completed, it will stop. If it does set on fire for any reason or whatever else, The emergency stop is there. You can just lift up the lid and it will stop cutting, and just use a scrap piece of wood to hit the flame out to make sure it stops.